This is pretty much stock footage straight from the camera, other than that flow state and that color plus you can add to it when you export, and some slight speed ramps here and there to kind of shorten the length of the video. But I wanted to get, high and low and the trees and the buildings and the tents, because if you look at my video from the other day, those tents were almost invisible. The light poles were almost invisible. They were so blown out. So auto definitely takes care of that in this kind of condition. This camera is more of a novelty. It's a pretty good camera, but it doesn't have a whole lot of options. You kind of get what you get. It does have a few, and I wish they had more ND filters. But it's really hard to set things in this camera because you don't know what you're getting until you land it and take the SD card out and put it in a computer. Or you might be able to view it on your phone too. I'm not sure. But like compared to a Mavic where you're flying it and you can tell things are blown out or whatever, and you can make adjustments on the fly. That's kind of what I'm used to. But and you can land it and put a different ND filter on there real quick and be on your way, because you can actually review the footage you just did on your phone while you're flying, or you can just hover it, So this is a process of learning how this camera works, and it's very limited in the options. So it's kind of like research and development, which is kind of where I work in my professional life. So I'm used to this kind of thing. I do understand that changing the shutter speed to 160 is going to screw up the motion blur, but this is not a cinematic video, and this is just a test. And FPV videos, are we really worried about motion blur on something like this? If I was really trying to do something cinematic with FPV, I'd get a better camera. But you don't have too many options. It goes from 120 to 160. I don't think there's anything in between. So if the footage looks a little digital here and there, it's because the shutter speed's set too high. But I had to bring down that white exposure that was getting blown out from having that shutter open too long. And when the camera's set to auto, we have no idea what the shutter speed is. So this is no different than auto, but this would work out probably better in a very bright light condition with an ND16 filter, and I would set the shutter at 120. So in these lighting conditions, I think either one of these settings is fine, but you got to keep in mind the sun is not moving behind clouds, there are no shadows, it's very dreary out. I prefer manual settings, but since they only give you one ND filter and it's a 16, that wouldn't really work in this condition because it would be so dark and it would be hard to adjust. So what I did in the manual settings was I upped the shutter speed, which will screw up the motion blur, I understand that, to 1/160th, which will bring down the exposure, but also I upped the ISO to 200. And that turned out pretty good. The auto settings also look good, but there is no changing lighting conditions. And I always like to set the white balance to something, usually around 5,000. If you get, on this camera especially, if you get lower than that, you start to get into this blue range, which may be applicable in some conditions, but I'm not a big fan. It's very hard to kind of color grade it out. The footages you are seeing here are pretty much straight out of the camera. I didn't do anything with the actual editing of the image except for some speed ramps and stuff like that, because in the first video my battery was in the way, so my camera angle was set at like 10 degrees or less, and I just had to go really slow in order to get any footage. When you're in the auto settings, you can lock the white balance. I recommend that, because if you don't, and there's changing lighting conditions, the white balance will constantly change. And you don't want that in a drone video, because you're going to be going under tree limbs, through a bando, or you know, whatever it is you're doing. You want to lock the white balance, whatever white balance you choose, but you want to lock it so that when you're post-editing, you don't have a constant change of the white balance.